Mr. Trump in Puerto Rico this weekend. Carmen Yulin Cruz credit EPA. It started as a plea for help amid the devastating aftermath of Hurricane Maria, but rapidly escalated into an unprecedented media war between a city mayor and the most powerful man on earth. For almost a fortnight the world's press has been gripped by the increasingly acrimonious exchanges between President Donald Trump and Carmen Yulin Cruz, the mayor of Puerto Rico's capital city San Juan. The flashpoint was a dispute over how aid was being distributed across the hurricane-ravaged U.S. territory. The intervening days have seen Mr. Trump launch personal attacks on Mrs. Cruz on Twitter, followed by the bizarre spectacle of the mayor wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with "nasty," one of the president's epithets for her during a TV interview. Mr. Trump is no stranger to social media controversies nor using Twitter to excoriate his opponents, as crooked Hillary Clinton, the fake news media and overrated Meryl Streep can all attest. Often the recipients of his ire choose to maintain a dignified silence or attempt to rise above it. Yet in Mrs. Cruz, Mr. Trump appears to have met an opponent who is just as pugnacious and adroit in her use of the media as the billionaire former reality TV star. This is how the extraordinary episode has unfolded thus far. Hurricane Maria and a stalled relief effort. Hurricane Maria flattened Puerto Rico as it barreled through the Caribbean last month, leaving the majority of its 3.4 million population without electricity or access to clean water. People sit on both sides of a destroyed bridge that crossed over the San Lorenzo de Moravis River, in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, in Moravis, Puerto Rico. Credit AP. Initially the U.S. government's response appeared effective as aid quickly arrived on the island. But then efforts stalled as around 10,000 shipping containers of supplies were left languishing for days at the port in San Juan amid red tape, disagreements over how it should be distributed, and a lack of drivers. Criticism of the operation soon mounted, and Mr. Trump responded by waiving restrictions on foreign ships transporting cargo to the island and then appointed a three-star general, Jeffrey Buchanan, to take command of relief efforts. But Mr. Trump also came under fire for then spending a long weekend at one of his New Jersey golf clubs 4 days after the hurricane pummeled Puerto Rico. A plea for help. Faced with a looming humanitarian crisis, Mrs. Cruz, 54, made an impassioned plea for help during an interview on CNN, in which she wore a T-shirt saying, "Help us, we are dying." San Juan's Mayor Carmen Yulin Cruz hugs a woman during her visit to an elderly home in San Juan. Credit FA. She called for more federal aid, saying Puerto Ricans were being reduced to drinking water from creeks, and addressed her message directly to the president. "I keep saying it, SOS. If anyone can hear us, if Mr. Trump can hear us, let's just get it over with and get the ball rolling." President Trump retaliates. Mr. Trump was unimpressed with Mrs. Cruz's intervention and lashed out on Twitter. He attacked the mayor's poor leadership and also suggested she was being nasty to him at the behest of his Democratic opponents. The mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by the Democrats that "you must be nasty to Trump." Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump. September 30, 2017. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan, and others in Puerto Rico, who are not able to get their workers to help. They, Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump. September 30, 2017, want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job. Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump. September 30, 2017. His outburst prompted a public backlash, with celebrities such as Lady Gaga urging the president focus on aid efforts to the U.S. territory rather than ad hominem attacks. It's clear where the poor leadership lies at Real Donald Trump. Puerto Rico is part of the United States. This is our responsibility. Zoxo, Gaga at Lady Gaga. September 30, 2017. That same day Mrs. Cruz responded to Mr. Trump's Twitter barbs deftly by refusing to directly engage with them. She instead tweeted that her one goal was to save lives and that it was not the time to get distracted. She included a comment about the hurricane aftermath being a time for Puerto Ricans to show their true colors and accompanied it with pictures of her helping victims. People quickly picked up on the optics of the mayor on the front line and a president who had been running the relief effort from a golf club. Tweets of a photo of Mrs. Cruz in chest-high water, clutching a megaphone, quickly went viral on the social media platform. As her Twitter stock rose, Mrs. Cruz, who cast herself during her 2012 election campaign as a pitier, a small bird known for fearlessly attacking larger ones, maintained that her sole focus was her struggling citizens. "I have time for one thing," she said in an interview with The Telegraph. "My mission is clear: opening paths, and I'll do and say what I need to." Mr. Trump in Puerto Rico this week. Mr. Trump has been keen to play down his feud with the San Juan mayor and talk up his administration's efforts in Puerto Rico. When asked by reporters about his outbursts at Mrs. Cruz, he said, "Well, I think she's come back a long way. I think it's now acknowledged what a great job we've done, and people are looking at that. President Trump throwing a paper towel roll as he visits the Cavalry Chapel in Guaynabo, Puerto Rico. Credit AFP. And in Texas and in Florida, we get an A, and I'll tell you what, I think we've done just as good in Puerto Rico, and it's actually a much tougher situation. But now the roads are cleared, communications is starting to come back. We need their truck drivers to start driving trucks. On Tuesday, Mr. Trump visited Puerto Rico with his wife Melania to see relief efforts for himself and was filmed throwing supplies into a crowd of Puerto Ricans. Mr. Trump also remarked that officials should be proud because the death toll was not as high as a real catastrophe like Hurricane Katrina. Mr. Trump and Mrs. Cruz had a brief meeting during his visit, in which the mayor said she told the president this is about saving lives. It's not about politics. Nasty TV interview. While Mr. Trump appeared keen to cease hostilities, the mayor showed she was in no mood for a truce when she lambasted the president's approach to Puerto Rico again in a series of interviews yesterday. Speaking to Univision, she wore a t-shirt with the word nasty printed on while accusing Mr. Trump of lacking common courtesy and labeling him a miscommunicator in chief. Mrs. Cruz wearing her nasty t-shirt in an interview, she added, "What is really nasty is that anyone would turn their back on the Puerto Rican people. When someone is annoyed by someone claiming lack of drinking water, lack of medicine for the sick, and lack of food for the hungry, that person has problems too severe to be explained in an interview." Has Mr. Trump met his match? Mr. Trump's Twitter paroxysms are often portrayed as the outbursts of an impulsive president who is easily piqued. Yet they are often timed in a way that changes the media narrative in his favor. For instance, his Twitter volleys at Mrs. Cruz shifted the focus from the administration's stuttering relief efforts in Puerto Rico onto the vociferous altercation with the mayor. However, in starting hostilities with Mrs. Cruz, he appears to have picked on an opponent just as robust and adept at using the media, social and traditional, to fight her corner. Politics is a rough game, and sometimes as females we are taught that you have to play nice, said Mrs. Cruz in a 2014 interview. Sometimes you can't play nice.